Hello, Something Guys and Gals. This is Something Guy 912 welcoming back the Odd Architecture series into Half-Life 2 with the first map of the Red Letter Day chapter, erroneously known as D1 underscore train station underscore O5. Although you could say O3 and O4 had little or nothing to do with a train station, regardless, placeholder names are quite convenient for map makers. Anyhow, this series, as with all the others, has me tackle the intricacies and oddities found in the design of these maps in relation to how realistic they are, to the best of my own understanding. This video shouldn't be particularly long, as the sequence regarding this map is effectively 2 rooms and an outside area, as opposed to my last video regarding TF2's Dust Bowl. With that out of the way, let's transition once more into the game. Hopefully this goes through well. I had to do a lot of bullshit to even get this to work because apparently AMD did not want to have a record and stream function anymore with the current update to Windows, so I'm using OBS. But I guess OBS does provide some more features. And I did a number of tests on this, so I have figured out what I can and cannot do. I have the game currently paused at the moment so that ideally Alex doesn't do something that I want to showcase as another example of the odd architecture in relation to what an NPC does. So, going through that. So yeah, she's just going to go through the motions, and I'm going to wait to talk about anything else. So, she does this thing where, yeah, she just jumps over the railing. And this is the only reason why this staircase and railing exists, is just for her to do that. There's not really a good reason why this would be designed this way, as opposed to just having the stairway just go down here. Like, there's not anything here that would imply that the rails need to be made this way. And then to the right of that, we have this indentation on the wall. As you can tell, it's bricked over, so the implication is that this area was kind of left abandoned and bricked out like before the Combine came here, presumably before the Combine came here, assuming that Alex and her gang didn't fill this up so that the Combine could not find them. Going on, we'll go down here. We have some more doorways in the back here, as well as another brick doorway to add more ammunition to the idea that of trying to keep this place kind of under wraps, as well as these boarded windows and whatnot. These doors obviously go nowhere, but I don't know if these doors could go somewhere if there was something behind them, rather than just, the skybox. And then we have this elevator door. This will, again, be really important much later down this series once we return back to this area in the campaign. Obviously, she tells us that she'll get us a drink, and it's actually a secret compartment into this room. So again, and if we go and look, we can see, I'm going to pause this real quick, we can see that this doorway is just a normal doorway. So this didn't used to be secret, but they made it so, and then hid a vending machine, a hauled out vending machine in front of it so that nobody could easily find it. And then going around the building itself, or Kleiner's lab, as it were, there's a lot of clutter. It's kind of hard to really grasp what is or isn't, like, nonsensical. The more pressing matter of, like, all this weird stuff is how the hell they even got it in here to begin with, if they had to get it through this little doorway or the double doors behind here, as we'll get to in a moment. So yeah, it's a little bit hard to understand. I mean, there are some things about this area that are a little bit inexplicable, like, for example, on this ladder, we go up to this little storage supply area, but you can't go over here because for some reason there's a fence here, and I can only assume the fence lining is here, just simply so that Lamar can jump up here, move some clutter around, and then go into this ventilation shaft. And we'll get to that in a moment. As for what this room used to be, I think this might have been some kind of warehouse or storehouse based on the industrial lights, the I don't know what you call them, the metal beams. We have a few that are jutting out here as supports. You have a few storage boxes here just kind of thrown on the corner, so this must have been some kind of storehouse of some kind before it's been essentially repurposed into an improvised lab. Including, the cameras and all that, the teleporter thing. So he'll open the door, he'll turn on the light, and then Lamar will come and jump at him. The thing I want to comment in regards to NPC movements, that'll be very important for something else in the second part of this room. But in regards to the Lamar, he goes up into this ventilation shaft, and as you know, in the game, he eventually jumps off, like he comes out from the other side of another ventilation shaft to disrupt the teleportation sequence. And if we follow these ventilation shafts, it actually would make sense for Lamar to actually jump down from here, because we go up here, it leads into that. So, like, it actually follows. And also, as another aside, these ventilation shafts are going to be the most realistic the ventilation shafts will ever get in this game. Because, as much as Hollywood would have you believe, ventilation shafts and vents are not human-sized. At least, they're not able to be used to crawl into, because, as the name implies, they're just for ventilating air, not for ventilating humans. But that's besides the point. And then, they want us to go take in the HEV suit. Now, another thing that is curious is, so this is in front of these sets of double doors. Now, assuming that this shutter gate was here originally for this warehouse, why would there be a shutter gate just a few steps away from a set of double doors into the entrance of this building, or exit of this building, if you will? It's a little bit odd. Like, wouldn't this be the main entrance? Like, why would this be here? I guess I'm assuming that this is just here, just to be like, oh my god, it's the HEV suit again, like before, and we gotta jump in on it. I'm not going to get into it, though, because I did realize I can actually break this sequence perfectly fine, and there'll be a very good reason as to why I want to do that, just to speed things up a little bit on this map. So when we do get in the HEV suit, Kleiner talks about the suit, its function, shows us the charger, and then he uses his little, he has this, like, secret little, biometric scanner behind this portrait that opens this gate, this sliding door. Now, I'm going to assume that he added the biometric scanner and the sliding door to this warehouse, and that this wasn't here originally. But again, it kind of comes into the question of how he even managed to get this in here, if they've been having to keep this kind of on the down low from the Combine's awareness of it. So anyway, we'll go in here, this whole procession comes in. What is interesting is, as opposed to showing the NPCs doing... Oh, well, that's interesting. This I did not know. They just skip through it if I just go through this area, regardless of me grabbing the suit or not. But anyway, so Kleiner steps on this little platform elevator thing. Again, I'm going to assume that this was something that he added. I don't know how he would have been able to add it. But it is interesting that this is just here to bring him up to this level, as opposed to just having a ladder. But as opposed to showing Alex can jump over a railing, I imagine that they did not have NPCs be able to climb ladders, at least in a convincing way. At least interact with the ladders in a convincing way, which is why they settled for this little platform thing. So, as for this room, I don't know, again, if the function of this room originally was the same as this storeroom back here. What is interesting, though, is we have another set of double doors behind the teleporter, and if we go in, it is actually a room. It's not very well detailed, but the fact that they even bother to put in a room here, because I guess, like if I do this, you can kind of see from inside of it. Barely, because I guess they didn't want to just settle just to have just a solid black mesh behind the set of double doors. It's just interesting that there's nothing behind this anyway. And the other interesting thing I discovered from doing this map, and the reason why I was just fine with breaking this sequence, is When you go into the teleporter and you get teleported, outside of this building, you do not get teleported just outside of this building. You get teleported in a completely separate instance of this portion of the lab. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So if I go over here, when you get teleported, you get teleported right here. And, like, everything goes off as though, as though the teleporter just got done doing its thing. I have to shoot these assholes real quick. They're gonna be annoying. Oh shit. But yeah, this is a completely separate instance. So when we get teleported behind here, we are teleported in a completely separate instance of this teleporter room, which I just find fascinating. That because I just always assumed that they just designed this area behind the lab and just had you teleport here, as opposed to having to make a completely separate instance. And I can only assume that they didn't find a way to, like, end the animation of this and that while I was doing that. And they just, like I said, they just had to essentially do this really convoluted approach. That being said, back here, we have this railing that is in the back balcony, but no way to get up to it in any way. No stairs, no railing, no ladder, nothing. So why this is here, I don't know. What is also interesting is behind this is yet another substation. A substation of which actually has fences, at least tall enough. I mean, they're a little bit on the short side in comparison to the size of these substations. But hey, there's actual fences that block people from going in. At least they would, if, you can't just walk through them freely with the fact that there's no fence doors. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting in contrast to the little mini substation in D1_ train station 04. I mean, I guess, like, somebody could drop down here, but again, it seems like there's a doorway here, so nobody can get through, even if this area is not really well detailed anyway. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting, the contrast of things. And just the fact that they had to just completely make a separate lab in this section here, because there isn't anything beyond this point. And then the last little minor thing is up here. Before we open this door, this will go into the next map sequences. We have a set of stairs here that just do not have a railing for some reason. I don't know why there wouldn't be a railing here. Like, I feel like it would only make sense for there to be a railing, but I mean, that's the least of, like, the maps in Future's problems in terms of the design of things. And that is effectively it for D1_ train station 05. And that was that for D1_ train station 05. A bit more than I expected, but nevertheless fascinating to discover what's behind the curtain on some of these games. Before I bid adieu, I should also mention, given the timeliness of things, that there has been word on the grapevine that a Half-Life 2 anniversary is nearing the corner, and that depending on what they change, may have me look back through the former maps I've covered to see what's different about them. While the likelihood that they change anything significant architectural-wise is unlikely, if they do, won't stymie my pursuits to cover any future maps in the series. Although, if they do, there will be a caveat that any future maps will be done with the Half-Life 2 anniversary version in mind, as opposed to the most recent version of Half-Life 2. With that out of the way, I hope you've continued enjoying the series, and will most certainly enjoy them once I start tackling the Root Canal chapter.